and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly, and when I think of my podcasting partner, Matt Freeman, I always think of the back of his head. I picture cracking his lovely skull, unspooling his brain. The primal questions of a partnership. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? What have we done to each other? What will we do?
You could just ask.
Pardon?
You could just ask me the questions.
Oh, you. This week on the show, it is another one. It is the final one of our Deconstructing Director series, diving deep into the films of David Fincher. This is part 10, the last one. We're going to be talking about 2014's Gone Girl. Matt, it's been a while. We only do these once a month these days, so has it been 10 months since we started Fincher? I guess it might have.
It might have been, yeah. Yeah, seems like we've done a lot of these for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But we're going to bring this all to a close, so we're going to spend most of the episode talking about Gone Girl. It will be a full spoilers discussion about this movie, and then we're going to wrap up the episode by wrapping up our Fincher series. So we're going to kind of talk about what we learned, what we thought overall, how the movie stacked up to each other and stacked up to our expectations before we started the project, that kind of thing. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
All right.
Let's just jump right into Gone Girl now.
Everyone told us marriage is hard work. Not for me and Nick.
As you all know, my wife, Amy Elliott Dunn, disappeared 3 days ago. I had nothing to do with the disappearance of my wife. I have nothing to hide.
Sammy got friends we can talk to?
No, not really.
You don't know if she has friends, you don't know what she does all day, and you don't know your wife's blood type.
Tell me about Gone Girl. What's this movie about?
With his wife's disappearance having become the focus of an intense media circus, a man sees the spotlight turned on him when it's suspected that he may not be innocent.
Oh my God, the sentence construction in that was awful.
Yeah, that's like some kind of broken AI created that sentence. That's, wow, incredible.
It's so bad, IMDb, come on.
Uh-huh.
This film was written by Gillian Flynn, who also happens to write the novel of the same name, Gone Girl, and it was, of course, directed by David Fincher. Matt, talk to me about your overall thoughts on this movie. First, had you seen this movie before this project, and what'd you think about it this run through?
I believe I'd seen it once before, and I liked it a lot. I mean, I think it was very well received when it came out. And I don't think I watched it again just because it's one of these really intense, sort of uncomfortable movies. And then I watched it again for this, of course, and I enjoyed it, I think, maybe even more this time. But I think I may have had a slightly different take on it this time, which is something that I'm noticing happens quite often, actually, when I sit down to watch movies aiming to be more analytical and dig into them and
Sure.
Knowing I'm going to have to talk about them, I end up walking away with a slightly different impression of like what the movie actually is and what it's trying to do. I'm looking forward to talking about that because I'm not too sure about my reading this time. And it'll be fun to bounce it off you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on here in this movie, so I think there's definitely a lot to talk about.
Cool. How about you?
I saw this movie in the theater when it came out in 2014. I had also read the book not long before that. I think I pulled the book out, in preparation for the movie because I was like, oh, Fincher's doing this movie. I want to read the book first. Loved the book, really, really enjoyed the movie. And I agree with you that I liked it more now. I mean, I think this is a movie about marriage, and I was not married in 2014 the first time I saw it, and I am married now. And I just want to preface this before we go into the rest of the discussion. I am in a very happy marriage. I love my wife very much. I don't want any of the stuff we're talking about with marriage in this episode to be a reflection on how I feel my marriage is going.
It's all completely abstract and not at all based on anything that has ever happened. We all understand, Scott.
Yeah. Okay. Good. As long as we all understand that. I don't want my wife to listen to this episode and be like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, no, I love this movie. I think it's really good. I think it's one of Fincher's finest. I think actually the closest comparison to his other movies to me is Seven, which is kind of crazy because that's about an insane serial killer. But I think a lot of the kind of bleakness and weariness of David Fincher's filmmaking is very present in this film. This is not a happy movie. There's no happy part in it. Even the end of the movie, there's no sunshine and rainbows here. It's just bleakness. It's just badness. The look, the cinematography, the score, all of it is just dreary and depressing and awful.
Our protagonist, well, both of our protagonists are terrible people.
Yes.
In very different ways. And that adds to, like, even though Ben Affleck's character has this sort of like smarmy charm to him that makes him somewhat likable, he's still pretty awful. You're kind of enjoying watching his suffering. Like that's yeah. I'm just adding to your comment that it's just bleak and dragging you down in so many ways.
That's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about with you a lot. Maybe that's where we can start, is Ben Affleck's character here. A very complex person that I think a lot of people misunderstand Ben Affleck's character, Nick Dunn. I was blanking on his name.
Yeah.
Misunderstand Nick Dunn in the same way that people misunderstand Tyler Durden, in that they left the movie like, yeah, this was the good guy. And it's just not true at all. Like, I think that's what the movie does a very good job. And I think this is something that the book did really well. And I think Gillian Flynn did a very good job of transporting this idea to the movie, because the book starts, you're in Nick Dunn's head for the entirety of the first half of the book. And it's intercut between Nick Dunn, you know, everything we see with him realizing his wife is missing and going through all that stuff and bumbling his way through all these interactions that just keep making him look worse and worse. And all those chapters are intercut with Amy's diary, and the story of their relationship as told through Amy's diary. And it slowly transitions, just like it does in the movie, from the happy, you know, wonderful memories to that last line where my husband might kill me. And throughout that first part, you're like, you go from totally being on this guy's side to actually thinking by the end of it that he did it. By the end of the first half that he did it. And then the movie pulls the wool out from under your eyes and says, oh, look, Amy's still alive, actually. And she set this whole thing up. And it's just one of the most wonderful, like, mid-movie switches that I've ever witnessed. It just like knocks you down and you're like, wait, what? And it forces you to recontextualize literally everything that's just happened. I think what happens with people is they recontextualize too far, where they're like, oh no, Amy's the psychopath. Nick never did anything wrong. He's the victim in all of this, and he's the hero. And I'm very glad he wasn't convicted of her murder. And like, that's just not the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a movie that almost demands to be watched twice, because, like you said, I mean, your experience watching the movie the second time and every subsequent time, knowing that Nick didn't do it and that she's still alive and that it's all a manipulation, is completely different, because you're paying attention to everything. You're understanding what things mean, and it's all hitting you differently, right? Because like the first time through, you're right. There's so many scenes where you're reading into his behavior. You're like, oh, maybe he did do it, and then the second time through, you're like, oh, I know he didn't, and his frustration here is understandable.
It's understandable, but it's so funny because you're reading through his behavior and pointing it as a sign of guilt, but in actuality, it's just a sign of him being kind of an asshole.
Right. Yeah, and also I think one clever thing that I think this was intentional. Maybe you can tell me more color on this, because I don't actually know this, but like the outlines of the story are so similar to the Scott Peterson murder of Scott Peterson was the murderer. The victim was his wife, whose name I'm blanking on right now. But like very similar seeming story, like a man murdering, I believe, his pregnant wife, and he even kind of looks like Ben Affleck. So like overall, you're like, me going into the theater, I was just like, oh, this is a fictional kind of exaggerated movie version of the Scott Peterson murder story. Which he is actually a monster who's like on death row or something. So,
sure.
but then it flips it, right? Then it flips it by being like, okay, you thought that's where this was going, because she plays on all these ideas from this from this real life event, and then no, that's not it at all. You're completely misled.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the details of the Peterson case and the story behind the story of this book to conclude that was intentional or not. But I mean, I think what this movie is doing is it is playing in pulp a lot. This is a pulpy movie, kind of elevated. This is like every Dangerous Liaison, or what's the one with I can't remember now. It is like playing in this kind of, I don't want to call it lowbrow, but like pulp. Pulp is the perfect word for it, right?
Yeah.
But it is taking that genre and doing something with it in that it's really interesting. That it really becomes just a story about marriage and what marriage is and what it does. I mean, the storyline of these two characters are these people that transformed themselves to what they thought the other person wanted. And eventually that became unsatisfying because of course it did.
Yeah. I think that you can even generalize and just say it's about any long-term relationship where there's all these complex things happening involving like the initial honeymoon phase where everything is butterflies, and then the shift and the gradual grinding of expectations and people trying on different roles and beginning to realize that they're not getting what they thought they would get out of it. I think you're exactly right. Like one of the first things we ever did as a podcasting team was to cover the book Fates and Furies, which is a literary novel about marriage. I love this book. It's so powerful. It really makes you think about things. This is like another look at marriage, but exactly like you said, it's hyper stylizing everything about marriage and making it, instead of an argument, you have a fake murder.
Right.
And instead of a small indiscretion, you have lengthy infidelity with a 20-year-old college student. It's all made way more soap opera, on purpose.
I mean, we talk so much about sci-fi and fantasy and how the trappings of genre are kind of used as a metaphor to talk about something that affects us all in our real life. And that is exactly what this movie is doing with the pulp genre. It is using pulp as a metaphor to explore the concept of relationships, of marriage, of people, and how they coexist with each other. And it does not have a lot of good things to say about it. It does not.
Yeah, right. It's definitely a cynical take on the whole idea. But it's funny. I think maybe this is a good spot to talk about like how my response to the movie was different this time.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So I was throughout the movie, especially the second half, after you realize she's not dead, I was like whipsawing back and forth between, oh, she's a monster, she's a complete psychopath, and like, but I can kind of get where she's coming from. Mm-hmm. And I know the movie wants me to empathize with her, because that's one thing Fincher's good at is, if you weren't meant to empathize with you, then he wouldn't have shot her the way he did, or orchestrated the scenes the way he did. And the writer wouldn't have written the scenes the way she did. And so I'm supposed to empathize with her. At the same time, the things she's doing are unbelievably manipulative, but it kind of becomes fun at some points where it's like, well, when the character who you're rooting for is being unbelievably manipulative, then you can kind of be okay with that, even though it's sort of objectively awful. Mm-hmm. But like, he never really lets you settle down one way or the other. It never says, actually, you're supposed to think she's awesome and Nick is terrible. Uh-huh. Neither does it say, actually, you're supposed to think she's just a complete straight up, no complexity to it Hannibal Lecter, and he's the victim.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like it starts to push you in that direction, then it pulls you back, and then it pushes you in the other direction, and it pulls you back. I think, like by the end of the movie, she certainly comes off really bad. Mm-hmm. But I think this viewing walked out of it being like, well, what am I supposed to really feel though? Because her perspective, while the things she did are pretty monstrous, you can imagine being in her place, and you can imagine feeling that level of like rage and betrayal, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, the cool girl speech, which is like the most famous part of the book, that they like that she's like, I was the cool girl, you know, the cool girl drinks beer, and the cool girl like eats nachos while maintaining a size 2, and like it's this long speech, and so there is this message of kind of empowerment, of escape from those expectations that she felt were put on her, because like it was this person that she was pretending to be that is who he fell in love with, not Amy Dunn, but amazing Amy, which is just I love how the story uses this child's book. Like it's so funny because like it's so multi-layered, because amazing Amy is her parents' creation of the perfect child, and she has also created her own amazing Amy as the perfect wife. And she only ever gets to be herself at small moments throughout the movie. And I think that's why the scene with her, you know, living at the motel complex with the two people that end up robbing her, I think is so important. It is so important for exactly what you're talking about, for kind of confusing you, the viewer, about what's going on here, because it is a sequence that is created to make you feel sorry for Amy. She comes out here, she runs away, she's liberated, she's being herself for the first time, and she's meeting people that she's able to be herself around. I love like this, like every scene she has food in it that she's never eaten ever. Like she's constantly snacking on chocolate and burgers and all these things, stuff that I think the book makes a little more clearly that she's just never eaten this stuff ever, because Amazing Amy couldn't be any bigger than a size 2. I just couldn't. And so she's allowing herself these pleasures, and then these two people come in and just rip it away from her. And she's feeling like she's in control and she won, and the world says, nope, you're wrong. Sorry. You think you're so smart, you think you're so clever. The world is gonna beat the shit out of you.
I think one thing, I don't even know if I noticed this the first time I saw the movie, or I didn't remember it anyway, is that her plan is actually to kill herself. And make it clear that Nick did it, and that's the coup de grace. Guaranteeing that he goes to the electric chair, and then it's only after she spends some time on the lam that she kind of like realizes like, oh no, I just needed to get away from that, and now I can kind of find a new a new way of being. It's there's kind of an interesting tragic level to it, where you wonder what would have happened if they hadn't robbed her, because they robbed her and then she goes back to the other guy. Which, I mean, she totally intends on manipulating him. But she doesn't intend on murdering him. That only happens, I think, because it's clear that he's also a psycho. Like, that's kind of the fun thing, is like everyone's a psycho.
Yes. The most important part is the episode of television Nick Dunn does, where he entirely, like, obviously faking it, and she knows he's faking it, but this is the person. Like, it's such a, like, I love that line when she comes back and she's like, you said on television you wanted me back, and I did whatever I could to get back to you. And he's like, I was lying, I was lying. And she's like, I don't care, that's the person I fell in love with, be that person and you get me. And it's just, oh my God, it's just like it's a nightmare. It's kind of like this co-abusive relationship that both of them can't seem to escape from.
I think, yes. Okay, so this is the one scene that really sealed it, and I was like, the one scene this time that made me think, oh, I had this movie completely wrong, is the one, almost the last scene of the movie, where he is actually talking to his sister, his twin sister, who is like the person who he trusts more than anyone, although apparently not actually completely, because he keeps a lot of things from her. And he's saying like, look, I have to stay with her because she showed me the pregnancy test. We're going to have a baby. The child is my responsibility. And on some level, I think the first time I saw that in particular, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. What a poor victim. He's going to stay with her for the kid, despite the fact that he's miserable. And then his sister says, you actually want to be with her, and he doesn't contradict her. And I realized, especially based on his performance, He does want to be with her.
Yep.
He gets a kick out of this. This is he wants this actually.
Yeah.
And that was yeah.
Right. She says to him, Amy says to him, I murdered for you. I killed for you. Where are you going to find someone that was willing to do that for you? And he agrees with that.
Yeah.
He agrees with that sentiment. He likes that. Yeah. It excites him.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
She's basically saying, I will be the cool girl for you as long as you live up to your end of the bargain.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All we have to do to make this marriage work is continue to pretend to be the people that we're not.
Yeah.
I did this to you because you stopped pretending to be that guy that you were pretending to be when I married. So go back to pretending, and you get me.
Yeah.
Pretending to be the cool girl.
Yeah.
And he looks at that and says, "Yep, okay,
Yeah. Right.
deal."
Because in the sense that this is a critique of marriage, that's kind of a I don't know, to be fully cynical, that's kind of a deal that you have to make repeatedly in any kind of long-term relationship.
Right.
where sometimes you're like, I just want to fucking watch TV. I don't want to be anything right now. I want to be, and sometimes that's not acceptable. And it's sort of shitty that this has to be this way. But I do think that we all have standards of what we're willing to tolerate from other people, and standards for ourselves, and then we just like to be selfish and pathetic sometimes, and these things clash inevitably.
Well, and I think in any relationship, you are always initially putting on a little bit of a front, right? Like when you were meeting someone new and when you were interested in them romantically, you're always putting on the best version of yourself, right? Like you are, and maybe this is just me and I'm exposing myself as a horrible person, but I feel like on the first date, you are not the average, normal version of yourself. You are a composite of all the best qualities of yourself and all the qualities you think this person that you're interested in would appreciate the most. And over the course of a relationship, the longer the relationship goes, the more of you that rises to the surface. And a lot of marriage is dealing with these different parts, is learning about each other the longer you're with each other, and having to deal with learning these things, and frankly having to deal with the fact that people change and are changing constantly, and the person that you married 10 years ago is literally not the person they are today. And successful marriage is being able to navigate those changes.
Yeah.
And so they are, in essence, doing the exact opposite of that.
Right.
They are saying, no, we exposed who we were to each other, and neither of us liked those people. And instead of breaking up and leaving and moving apart, let's just dive back into the lie again. It's awful. It's awful.
I mean, that's what's fascinating, is it's awful, but they both want it. And in a sick way, you at least this time, I didn't feel this way the first time. This way, I ended the movie feeling like, in a sick way, I think Nick is happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think they deserve each other.
Yeah,
is that's where I these two people are not good people, and they deserve each other. That's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because he clearly was miserable in the marriage.
Yeah,
like as he was pulling away from her. And she's like, well, the reason you were miserable is that you weren't being amazing Nick.
Yeah.
And it's very complex though. Like
it is.
It doesn't have, I don't think it has a simple, way of boiling down, but this is what you should really do in real life. I guess in real, I don't know. Relationships are complicated, and it's kind of a weird human thing. It's one of those things where if you look at it, it just kind of breaks down into comedy bits of just aren't we weird, ridiculous creatures? And so throwing this hyper stylized interpretation of it on the screen like this is just it's so wild, and then you see so much of yourself in it, and that really freaks you out.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, and that's why I do agree this is challenging you, because you can see yourself in some of the relationship interactions, but then this is a movie about fake murder, fake rape, about, you know, assault, like about infidelity, about like just this actual murder,
Yeah.
the scummiest of the scummiest of activities, and then it makes you be like, oh, I recognized a part of myself in that character that did that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
oh God.
I think there's stuff to relate to in both characters. Like,
Sure, yeah.
Like the idea of you find out your partner has been cheating and you embark on an incredibly elaborate and insane revenge scheme is, I think, a universal human characteristic.
Maybe not faking death level.
Maybe not faking death level, but that's the point, right? That's the point of what she's doing with this book is I mean, we all have fantasies that we never tell anyone about. And that's
where are you going
that's
with
healthy.
this?
I'm just saying like that's what writers do ultimately, is they write about stuff where our heads have gone to these places, but we've never acted on any of this stuff. Because we would go to jail. Just kidding, everyone.
Gosh.
I've never had any bad thoughts.
I'm so worried about
jokes.
you.
It's all jokes, folks.
No, I think I kind of, like, we've been talking about the story a lot, and I think the story is fantastically told. I kind of want to set our sights back on Fincher again.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the way he shoots the flashback sequences and the way the actors perform the early moments of their courtship. And maybe it's just because I've seen it multiple times. First of all, Rosamund Pike is like incredible in this movie. Like she basically plays three different characters. She plays three different Amy's throughout the course of this movie, and I think she's fantastic in all of them. I think it's so funny though, because the way Fincher shoots these flashbacks, there's something about them that just feels wrong to me. They just feel flat. Like these two characters, like the one scene in particular I'm thinking of is the scene where, you know, they're in the elevator leaving the party and small talking with each other, and he basically says, I would never lie to you, which is hilarious, and I will always be straight with you. And he does the thing where he covers up his chin dimple with his fingers, like they're just their like cute relationship thing, right? And in like a romantic comedy, that would be like this cute, adorable moment of warmth, and like, oh, you would go like, oh, look at these kids with their cute little tradition that they're going to carry forward into their marriage, where anytime he wants to make sure he's being real with her, he's going to cover that dimple. But their performances, to me, felt wooden and like overly reserved and just weird in a way that feels intentional, because that's not the way their performances are at any other moments of the movie. Like, I don't want to just settle this on bad acting or anything. It feels like this was a choice. This was an intentional choice by Fincher to paint, to make you, the viewer, like on the page, what you're seeing is this beautiful meet cute, but what you're seeing just feels off in a very peculiar way.
Well, I think literally what it is two people who are in their heads going, "Oh, this is a meet cute," and executing that script, and being like, "Oh, she's really into this meet cute that we're performing." That was that was a good volley of my meet cute line that I just read to her. Let me be sure that I volley back properly. But that's what they're doing. They're not organically swept up in the moment of the other person. It's all about like the performance that is being enacted for each other and in a sense for themselves. And they're both aware of it, I think, is the thing.
Yeah,
they're both yeah.
Because the fucking like the sugar snow scene is like so cheesy. It's like and again, on paper, I think it's cheesy, but in the movie, it's just weird because like the way Fincher shoots it, the camera's kind of far away from the two of them for half that scene. Like, it doesn't get close. Like, normally, if you want to like show intimacy in a scene, you want to show these characters that care about each other and are intimate, and there's heat between them. You move the camera close to them, and that scene is shot from a distance, and it does cut in eventually when they do the kiss, but it feels late. It feels off. It feels wrong, in the kind of way that I think only a very talented director. Like I think it's hard to intentionally do bad stuff. I made the same argument for M. Night Shyamalan during The Happening, but this is a different kind of, like, I think there's this weird thing that happens where the first time you watch it, that might not jump out to you, except that it feels a little, it just there's something that's unsettling in you. I think, and you don't know where to place that.
Well, I think that, like, especially, I think you're right that, like, as you, the first time you watch the movie, it takes the whole movie before you really see all of the masks she wears, and then see her take all the masks off.
Yeah.
And then having kind of access to that full palette of what she's doing with this character, then you watch the movie again and you realize in that scene, the look on her face is less a look of openness and complete, unreserved being in the moment, and more a moment of, like, waiting hawk judging his performance and while doing her own performance at the same time. Like, her eyes are 10% too wide. Her smile is slightly fixed. You know what I mean? Like,
there's a little bit of a vacancy behind that expression. Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, both of them are doing it because both of them are perfectly naturalistic in other scenes where they're not playing roles for anyone.
Yeah, definitely. And man, she's so good at it. But I want to give Ben Affleck a lot of credit here too, because I think Ben Affleck gets a bad rap sometimes. He's been not great in a lot of movies. I think he's doing really good here, and I think this is some of his best work ever, actually. He has to play this character that is so stupid. Like, he's so bumbling and, like, unaware. Like, it's so fascinating to watch him in the first half of this movie, where he's just kind of like, he hates her.
Yeah.
He hates Amy by this point. He hates her, and he has no idea how to project his love of her in the way that people want to hear it, while retaining his hatred of her. And I think Affleck plays that beautifully. I really think he does. Like there's always a coldness to him. Like, even when he's giving these speeches, like, I totally understand why this newswoman just ripped him apart after everything he said, because it all comes off just the worst. Like, just even a speech at the vigil, it's just like, I just don't buy it. Like, I don't believe you. And again, I think this is something that could be confused for just not great acting, but I think it's intentionally bad acting. Like, there's a lot of layers of acting going on in this movie, and I think it takes a skilled actor and a skilled director to guide you into those choices, because acting bad on purpose is hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think that like, typically he gets kind of put into roles where he's supposed to be cool. And I think it's way more fun to watch him in a role where he's supposed to be the opposite of cool. And I mean, honestly, I just think that there's more there. There's more there for any actor. Like, like it's really an incredibly complex role. I mean, I think it does say something, the fact that this is probably the most complex role that he's played, and I also think it's the best job that he's ever done. And that's almost saying, like, most of the movies that he's in are just sort of shallow, and thus they're not demanding anything of him. And whereas this, and maybe we can put some of that credit at Fincher's feet, even by kind of tapping into those depths. I don't really know, but
I think we have to. Yeah. I mean, I want to give full credit to the actor and the performances, but I think one thing we've seen throughout this project is the ways in which a very good, talented director can elevate a good actor to another level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I like all the performances in this movie are so great. Like, Tyler Perry, Medea, is playing a lawyer here, like the smarmy but talented defense lawyer. And it's such a good performance. It's like, it's a small character, it's a small role, but it's such a good, like, he's the one like rock of the movie, like the one thing that Nick can lean on, that he, like, it's unquestionable. Like even Margot is a point like where he's kind of losing his sister at points, but Tyler Perry plays he's this solid, clear character.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great performance there too.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the detective, I don't ever remember anybody's names in movies. Who's the detective?
That is
Rhonda Boney is the character's name. I don't know the actor either.
Yeah, it's
but
Kim Dickens.
Kim Dickens. I mean, yeah, she is a great. As soon as she comes into the movie, it introduces this whole feeling of like, oh, they're suspicious of him, and then from there, her, she's her own complicated character, because you kind of expect her to just be like, okay, she's the antagonist, she's going to be after him. She mostly is, but also she's portrayed as being consistently extremely intelligent and resourceful. And when things start to become a little bit muddy, she's the one who notices, even though her colleagues are like, oh, come on, he obviously did it. I thought that was great. I mean, really every role is just nailed in this movie.
So good. What else do you want to talk about? What else is there to explore here? I mean, there's still a lot, I think. I think some of the location choices, like Desi Collins' house, is so creepy. And it's this beautiful lush house, right, that Amy goes to, and it's her prison. And I love the way Fincher shoots that.
Yeah, that whole part of I remember the first time I saw the movie just being like, this is just not an evolution that I saw this movie going in. It's such an interesting wrinkle or little zag in the road, because, and I don't know if I've even fully unpacked what it means, thematically or even narratively necessarily. Like, okay, presumably the story could have gone quite differently. She could have gone, to the motel, and then at the motel she could have seen Nick give his apology, and then she could have decided to go back. But instead, we do this thing where she goes to this old boyfriend who, just to continue talking about the ideas of kind of no one being blameless. Like she, by her own sort of statement, like strung this guy along and manipulated him. But now he's turned into this monster as a consequence. And now he's the one like perpetuating this cycle of controlling behavior and, putting her kind of in this gilded cage. And then she, ended up having to murder him to get out of. And it's like, I kind of think that's one of the major ideas behind all of this, is like, these are sort of cycles. These are sort of games that these are sort of inevitably 2-player games where, like, yes, she may have been a terrible girlfriend, but it was his choice, or on some level his responsibility to like continue to be weirdly obsessed with her for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing the movie's doing, is continually keeping you off balance with respect to whose fault is this? Who can we comfortably sit back and blame?
Yeah, because we want to do that, right?
Yes.
Any two-person conflict, the comfortable thing is, let's find the person that was wrong and the person that was right, and we can feel good about the bad things that happened to the person that was wrong, and we can feel good about the good things that happened to the person that was right. And it's so often not the case. And again, this is using pulp, it's using sex and violence to elevate these ideas, to kind of look at them from a different new angle. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Desi is an abuser. It didn't get there physically yet, right? Like it had not escalated to that point physically yet when she kills him, but it was definitely going there. I mean, I love the way, again, broken record, but Neil Patrick Harris's performance here is so menacing in just a very interesting way, because he's basically playing the same kind of rich playboy character that he plays in How I Met Your Mother. But instead of being funny and aloof, it's sinister and terrible. And it is like, it's just like the word choices, the way he says the lines, like don't you worry, anyone that can get in and out will be seen. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, and I'm not letting you go anywhere. I'm not letting you get away from me again. And it's like, holy shit, did you think that sounded like romantic? Did you think that was like, oh, that's what I wanted to hear?
Yeah. It's funny. It's one of those movies where you have to wonder if the director was like, all right, this take, I want you to play it as if he just loves this woman. He's a sweetheart. He wants to take care of her. He wants to keep her safe. He's very fond of her. Go. And then the next take, dead eyes. You're planning to kill her later. And this is basically she's basically just here so you can get revenge on her. Okay, go.
Sure,
and like that's the thing is you're never quite sure. You're never quite sure whether he is actually gonna go full Bates Motel on her,
sure,
or if it's all, I love the ambiguity. I agree, it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite visible examples of this is when they are watching the Nick Dunn interview and she's eating pudding, ice cream, I can't tell. She's eating dessert, and she's eating out of her dessert thing. And then she just grabs his and starts eating out of his, and he is not happy. I mean, he's already not happy because she's like really intently listening to Nick Dunn, and he's starting to feel like, oh, this is the same thing that happens to me all over again. And like he sees her grab the dessert, and he pours himself a big glass of wine because he's angry. And then eventually he just grabs it out of her hand and sets it down because because she's gotten fat, right? Like, I mean, I think the makeuping work in this did a really good job of by the time Amy has gotten to his house, she has put on some weight. It's noticeable. She's got a little bit of a belly popping out because she's been eating all the junk food she wants to, and she's not trying to be that perfect size 2 anymore.
And one of the first things he says when she gets there is like, and there's a gym just down the road. We're gonna get you right back into shape, and you're gonna be yourself.
Yeah, the sooner you start looking like yourself again, the sooner you'll start feeling like yourself again, which is such a charged line because of course that's not who she was. This is who she is, this person. And so, yeah, I mean, like Desi, just like Nick, is only interested in the projected version of Amy, the amazing version of Amy, and not interested in who Amy is as a person at all. And again, she murders him, and that's awful. Like that's the thing about this is I like the choices and the actions she takes are terrible. Like terrible. But it is a movie that doesn't let you just say, okay, well then Amy's the bad one. Like it doesn't let you sit in that.
It's funny because I like watching it again. You get to notice more thing like what her plan is not clear to you the first time you're watching. It's clear the second time, and it's like she lets things take their course so that there will be semen to be detected in order to verify that there was a sexual assault, basically. Like that's how galaxy brain she went with her scam. And it's so like when you realize how intentional every aspect of the murder was, you're just like, okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing with the guy that she accused of sexual assault, right?
Yes.
The other man, I forget who that was, but I forget what the character. It's a very minor role. He's only in one scene. It's played by. Is it played by Scoot McNairy? Yeah, it's played by Scoot McNairy, a pretty big actor who's in this tiny little role.
It's just to establish that this is an MO of hers, basically.
Right, but I think the thing I love about that, and again, I want to make clear here, what she does to this man is awful. But like, Nick is talking to him, and he's like, "So you broke up with her?" And he's like, "Nah, man. I just kind of stepped away." It's like, so you ghosted her. You ghosted her. Things weren't going the way you wanted them to go anymore, and you ghosted her. And again, not to say that then he deserves what he got. Obviously not. But like, it just goes to show you how there's always two sides to everything in relationship stories.
Yeah. Because you can imagine you can imagine that story told from her point of view of just like, how dare this son of a bitch?
Right.
Like I've invested so much into this, and he doesn't even have the temerity, or the, what's the word? The balls to break up with me. Like, you get the sense that if he just broke up with her, whatever, that happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think the film is saying that every man she's ever been in any way involved with was destroyed. Maybe it is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
There's not enough there to say that conclusively, but I did not get the feeling that was the point.
That's a good.
But she certainly. But like, I think I'm worried about getting too close to like to jumping too close to what she did was fine, which I think so I'm just repeating myself and saying that no, obviously not. I'm not trying to say that. I am trying to say that I think the movie is exploring through these two asshole characters, the ways in which asshole like marriages can go on, terrible marriages.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've been in this situation many times, and so we understand that any time there are two parties in a story, and there are two possible sides to take. There will be people who very strongly take one side or the other.
Sure.
And will get really upset if you either take the other side or imply that there's any other choice than taking their side. I think the point is that in this movie, that is exactly what this movie is doing. That movie is taking a really very extreme example of a violent, vengeful person, and pushing you to the point where you're like, and that's pretty remarkable, actually. Although to repeat myself, that isn't necessarily the reading I had the first time I saw the movie, which I think is still pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I talked with plenty of people that left this movie just with like oh my god, psychopath wife movie, and while
yes,
that is technically true, that is selling the movie short. In similar ways to how like people walked out of Fight Club and were like, man, Tyler Durden's fucking awesome. No. Amy is not the only bad guy in this movie.
I think
she is a bad guy. She is a bad guy.
It's actually kind of a Fincher thing to make these movies that have so many layers where you watch them a few times and then you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. I didn't understand what this movie actually was supposed to be doing. And I mean, Fight Club is 100% that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that really interests him generally is the characters that, you can kind of attack from different levels, through different layers, through different perspectives, and you see them differently. Like, I think it is true that at the beginning of the movie, Tyler Durden, through the perspective of the narrator, that is kind of our point of view character, does look pretty cool. But I do think the movie makes it clear by the end of it that was not the correct read of that character. And I think that is the same thing that's happening here. I also think that he really likes to explore relationships, and most of the relationships he likes to explore are not successful ones. I'm thinking of the marriage in Seven, and how the marriage in Seven is not going very well between Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow, and of course it ends horribly. We have the marriage in Benjamin Button, right? That love story is just heartbreaking and terrible.
Yeah, that's my least favorite.
We have the love story in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo that ends on a bad note. He does seem to be very interested in these relationships and in the ways in which relationships fail, just through people being people. And the complexities of people.
The happiest relationship story was Ripley and Tywin Lannister. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Tywin Lannister that gets immediately killed
at the high point of their relationship before it can go down the tubes.
Yeah. That's true. If we chop off the person's head or stab them with an alien, then the relationship might end. Yeah. Okay.
Right, because that was a beautiful moment, and then he'd revealed a deep inner truth about himself, and they'd ship.
Yeah.
All downhill from there. That was his first feature film.
I mean, the more I look at this list of movies, the more I'm noticing this. Zodiac is a character who like destroys his marriage through obsession with this other thing. Panic Room, that's a marriage ending through infidelity, where a woman's trying to kind of reconnect with her daughter and trying to figure out who she is as a person outside of this failed marriage. The Social Network is literally about a man who has no friends and can't sustain a relationship with anyone.
I think, what you just said, I think is also important, which is a lot of these characters, they have terrible relationships, but they also have no friends. So, so both like Amy has no friends textually. Nick doesn't appear to have any friends either.
No, he has Go. That's it.
He has his sister, you mean? Or
Margot. Go.
Yeah, his sister and the cat, which is something I really noticed this time, where he is so he sort of dotes on this cat. It's sort of fascinating, actually, because there's all these scenes in the movie where you could forgive him for being short-tempered, angry, frustrated with what's going on, but he'll like very carefully, make sure the cat is okay, or bring the cat in, or not gently pet the cat, even though he's upset. And it's like, this is because the cat's not going to judge him. The cat doesn't. The cat has no expectations of him, and it's just a fascinating little moment. But you can go through each of these movies and just kind of notice none of these people have friends. That's the whole point of Fight Club. In a sense, that's the whole point of the game, is these characters have no friends, say nothing about romantic relationships. And so, the narrator makes up a friend in Fight Club.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. And I mean, I'm thinking about this movie, and there's the one scene where he says he's going to go out and meet some high school friends, and she wouldn't like it, so she wouldn't want to go. But that, I think, is part of her constructed lie of their relationship, because that's the moment that he pushes her down or something. Maybe that's not the moment that he pushes her down. But
see, I figured he was just going to go cheat on her anyway. Like,
sure. That's probably what that is. Yeah.
And so he literally wasn't going to go hang out with friends, which would have been way more healthy, actually.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the movie doesn't bother to ever show any of them. Like he's very good at like walking into a room and like being social with everyone in the room, but the movie never frames any of these people as anything more than acquaintances.
Exactly.
Any of them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like if some terrible, situation arose in my life, I would be, there are so many friends who I would be texting and calling and keeping updated. And he's just like, there's his mother and father-in-law. There's his sister.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And he, like, his dad, oh my God. Like he treats his dad like such shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, his dad treats him like shit too. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. It's, I mean, like father, like son, right?
Yeah.
It's just this terrible relationship. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, that is, unless you had anything more you wanted to say about Gone Girl, just an excellently crafted movie. I really, really liked that one.
Yeah, no, I just literally the last thing you said about the dad, like I thought that was such a fascinating scene when he drives the dad, like they drive in silence with the radio playing back to the nursing home. Mm-hmm. The dad gets out of the car. Nick gets out of the car. He like waves to the workers, but the dad just keeps walking, doesn't turn around. Nick just like gets in the car, clears his throat, and drives off. Like it's such a and it's like, well, why show that scene? Nothing happens. It's like, well, you're showing the absence of a relationship. Yep.
Well, and I love when scenes can do double duty, because I think the scene in the police office when he's angry that no one called him about his dad being loose and walking around does two things. It establishes he's kind of a shitty person. Like, he gets angry with his dad. Like, so his dad is not all there, right? Yeah. And has escaped from this family home that he shoved him in. It's so fun. Like, I don't want to overly judge people, because there's a lot of people that are in homes that just like they just can't be taken care of anymore, right? Mm-hmm, but like these two people both live in this town, and like he came home to take care of his mom, and then his mom died, and his dad's just in a home. Mm-hmm. But anyway, like, he's so short-tempered with his dad. and he like slams the thing down because he's pissed off because his dad keeps making noise. The man who just like escaped from the home is probably confused. He was just walking down a highway for hours, probably confused and terrified this man is, and he's so short-tempered with his dad. And this does two things. It shows the shitty relationship he has with his father, but it also establishes his anger issues to the detective who is observing this. And I love the way Fincher, like, I think the mix on the slamming of the desk divider that goes up and down, I think is turned up a little bit to where just the slamming noise is really accentuated in the mix, to kind of like make the detective really start to go like, oh, this guy's he's got a little bit of a temper, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep. I love it. I love this movie. It's great.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so that's it for Gone Girl. And now we're done. So I want to kind of, we did some overall talking about Fincher already, but I want to kind of have you and I look back over this 10 movie series and talk about maybe what we learned a little bit. I think the first question I want to ask you, Matt, is out of these 10 films, what's your favorite at the end of this project?
Oh man. I definitely, I'm gonna kind of answer in real time. I mean, I think Seven and Fight Club are definitely my favorites. I think The Social Network might fit into that pile. It's hard for me to think about Fight Club because I watched that movie so long ago, and it has like been it has morphed, and it has grown with me in a sense. I sort of have seen. I've seen it different ways at different ages, and it is just a really remarkable and singular movie. So that might be my favorite. Seven is another one of those movies where it's just like every person has to see this movie, even though they might never want to watch it again. And The Social Network, I think it's funny. It definitely plays differently in 2020 than it played when it came out.
Right.
But it's extraordinarily well put together. I'm not even sure why I wouldn't put this movie in my list of favorites. It is a great movie. I love it. I just don't love it.
Sure. Fair.
So that's I might come up with a better answer, but that's kind of my feeling as I look over these films and think about them. What do you think? What do you think?
I mean, when I went into this project, I would have told you it was Zodiac, and I think Zodiac is still definitely up there, near the top. I really think I fell in love with Social Network in a very visceral kind of way. Like I really loved that movie this time through. And I think it is because of how much more meaning is attached to it 10 years later, because of the state of Facebook and because of how important this thing has become in all of our lives. The movie just kind of takes on more and more meaning as it ages. And I think the combination of Fincher and I forgot.
Spider-Man. What?
No.
What are you?
the writer?
Oh, the writer. Sorkin.
Thank you, Sorkin. You told I was about to have it, and then you said Spider-Man, and my brain just went, "What?" Fincher and Sorkin, I think, is an unbeatable combination. Really great. Just like someone who writes incredible dialogue matched with someone who composes beautiful scenes.
Yeah,
coming together to make a movie. So I really think The Social Network is there. I still really love Zodiac. I'm with you on Seven. I'm with you on Fight Club. And I really, really loved this movie too. So yeah, it's all of them is the answer.
Yeah, right. And I think I think that the ones that didn't make it on that list, I think that we talked plenty about the problems with them when we did the episodes on them.
Yeah.
And they're just some of them you can call it growing pains. Some of them you can call it disastrous production issues.
Yeah.
Some of you can just call it a bad script, and he did his best.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 90% of our complaints about the Game were just like, and this doesn't make sense either, and that's all script, right?
Yeah.
Benjamin Button. All of my problems with that movie were the script, were the story, the idea of like this character, and girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah,
I think
it's so amazing that like we did kind of back-to-back movies based on thriller novels, and I think the difference in Gone Girl and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is very much script quality.
Yeah,
like for sure. Like these are both movies that were based on novels, and one adapted the novel, and the other just tried to retell the novel.
Yeah,
and it really shows.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
What was your?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say I'm trying to think. Like I think I am more impressed with Fincher after having done this than I was before, and I already thought he was among my favorite directors. So
yeah, he's so good. He's so good. This was such a different experience for me than M. Night Shyamalan was, because while I loved Fincher, like I loved M. Night Shyamalan, and I was so nervous going into the Shyamalan movies because I was worried that I would come out like being less in love with him, and I was so relieved when I didn't. And this is one where I'm like, yeah, this dude's a genius.
Yeah.
Like just straight up.
I think that's a fascinating thing to talk about, to compare slightly. The idea that like I think one conclusion from Shyamalan was every time he's the writer director, it's something really special. Maybe it's weird, maybe it kind of is an acquired taste, but it's something really special. And Fincher is not a writer director. Yeah. And so whether his movie is a home run or not just depends on, okay, well, was it a great script?
Yeah. I mean, we give directors so much credit in movies, and which is not to say they don't deserve it. I mean, we are basically doing a series here that is basically like saying
Auteur Theory, the podcast.
Yeah, it's basically Auteur Theory, the podcast. Yeah. But like scripts are so important. It's the bones of the movie. It's everything.
I think a year or two ago, I might have been of the opinion of like, I really just want to cover writer directors, because then you can just say something about the story and be like, well, that was also the director's fault. That was also, and right. So forth. But I think that's one of the challenges of having done this Fincher series, is that he's not the writer of any of these movies. And so we do spend a lot of time talking about the story, but I think we tried to bring it back around to say, well, what else could Fincher have done with this, or how did Fincher make this work even though it wasn't his story? How did he interpret it? How does his interpretation impact how it's received? And
The Game is such an amazing movie to look at.
Yeah.
Like it is such a beautiful, like creepy, haunting movie to watch. It's just not a very good script. It's just not a very good story. The story just doesn't come together in a satisfying way. And that was actually, I think if I had to pick like my biggest surprise of this whole process, it was how much I did not like The Game. I had very fond memories of that movie. I had very fond memories of my experience with it. I still think there's part of it that are just absolutely phenomenal, but I did not expect to be as disappointed in that movie as I was. And so that was very surprising for me.
Yeah, I think the funniest part is that we just ragged on it for half an hour. I agree. Like even watching it, you're not hating it. You're just like, I don't know about that, but then when you actually sit down and talk about it, it just doesn't hang together at all.
Yeah. It's really bummed out about that one.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think something like Panic Room I liked a lot more after. Not that I ever disliked it, but like after talking about it, it so much more kind of pops out about how well it's put together.
I agree. I think that one is underrated.
By us.
Well, by us, I think by a lot of people too.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
I think if you say what's your favorite Fincher movie, nobody's saying Panic Room, and not mine either. But definitely a better movie than people give it credit for. I think Alien 3 is a really interesting one for me as well, because I've always kind of been quoted saying I think Alien 3 is better than everyone gives it credit for, and I went into that movie with that opinion in my head, but it was an abstract opinion in my head because it had been so long since I've seen it, and I was kind of being one of those like instigators and disagreeing with the popular opinion because I like to sometimes. And then I watched the movie again, and I was like, oh wait, no, I was actually right about this. This is actually a very good movie that has some definitely some clear problems that I think that don't allow it to elevate to greatness, but a very good movie, Alien 3.
Yeah, I can't even say that much because I just had thought that it was a pile of garbage for like and I think I had seen it, but like I'd seen it like on television, 15 years ago, half paying attention, and so I was like shocked to find that it's actually a good movie.
Yeah.
And I think like barring like a really kind of incoherent and chaotic scene toward the end where you almost wish you could just cut it out and just be like, and then the alien was there, and then we cut all that garbage out. like barring that, it really is just a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to be contrarian sometimes, and true to form for me, my contrarianism usually doesn't come from, everybody likes this movie, but I hate it. It's usually the opposite. It's like, everybody hates this movie, but I think it's fucking awesome, and I don't care what you have to say. And I was definitely doing that with Alien 3 without like honestly having the knowledge of the film to back it up. And so it was very enjoyable getting to relive it and be like, I wasn't just being a contrarian asshole. I actually do legitimately think it's a good movie and worthy of more praise than it got.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Let's see what else. I mean, it was fun to identify all of these themes that he seems to either be interested in or to bring out of the films that he is doing.
Yeah.
Sort of isolation, alienation. I can't remember what all of the themes were that we decided were in his movies.
We talked about a few right at the end of the Gone Girl one with relationships, lack of relationships, lack of human connection, and the destructive, the ways in which that is destructive, and the ways characters continually choose to avoid that interaction. And then
obsession, I think, they would agree.
Yeah, great. And then Gone Girl, of course, says, "Well, look, they're going to be happy ever after now because they've embraced each other on a." Mm-hmm. They're not rejecting the relationship. How beautiful that we've concluded in a positive. It's funny because like the most obvious thing to say is that one of the themes is like horrific violence. Definitely.
I'm trying to let's see which ones don't have horrific violence. I guess all of the violence in the game is fake.
The Benjamin Button does not have horrific violence.
Benjamin Button does have his whole crew being shot up by a German machine gun, though.
You're right.
The Social Network doesn't have any horrific violence that I can recall. That's it. So, I mean, he likes doing violence. He likes the darkness. He likes, I think, even though Social Network doesn't have violence, it's almost a situation where you can imagine the characters having snapped and killed each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the key is it's about situations between people escalating to the point of just breaking.
Yeah. I think if Social Network were not based on a true story, he probably would have had them kill each other. He just literally couldn't do that.
Yeah. That's absolutely. I absolutely agree that either Mark or Wardo would have died at the end of that movie. That's great.
Awesome. Yeah, I loved this experience. I really did. This series we do is one of my favorite things we do, and I hope the people listening out there really enjoy it too. I think it always is worth taking time to just kind of go back and I'm not saying you have to believe in the auteur theory. I kind of go back and forth on how I feel about giving directors so much credit, but it is true at least that they are at the helm of these films, and they're using the talents of hundreds and thousands of people to help bring the movie home, but they're the ones at the helm of it. And so seeing, with something like cinematography, like Fincher is choosing the cinematographers and he's trusting those people to do their job. He's trusting the costuming people. He's trusting his actors. He's trusting his set designers. He's trusting all these people to do incredible work that they deserve to be, credited for. But he is the one making those choices. And so I don't think you have to believe in auteur theory to see something value in deconstructing these directors,
Yeah, absolutely. I think next we should do deconstructing key grips, and we'll follow all of the films of particular prominent key grip throughout their filmography.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to transition to, what do we want to do next,
Yeah.
We've done M. Night Shyamalan, we've done the Wachowskis, and now we've done Fincher. And who's next? Who do we want to do next? And I mean, we had a long list, and we had last time, the reason we settled on Fincher is because we left it up to our patrons. And I think we're probably going to do the same thing. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure who the 5 I want to put up are. I think, we talked last week about Gore Verbinski. We've talked in the past about Guillermo del Toro and how fun that would be to do. I think Alfonso Cuarón is another one that would be great to do. David Lynch. I see something very fun in doing Michael Bay or Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, a director that I don't particularly like, but I think it would be really interesting to try to spend some real time diving into his movies and see if there's something we could take away there. And the same for Michael Bay. I think he's brilliant in some things, and I think that would be a very fascinating thing to do as well.
Potentially, yes. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem just throwing names onto a list to be either discussed or potentially voted on. It's funny how Gore Verbinski was just not on my radar until literally last week, and now I'm like, I really want to do a Gore Verbinski deconstructing series.
Sure. I think Rian Johnson's another one that would be fun. He's another one of those writer-directors that I think it'd be really fun to spend some time with. And then we could piss a bunch of people off by talking about how much I liked The Last Jedi again.
Yeah.
I haven't done that enough.
I mean, we could do Ridley Scott, because that's another director who I think we both have extremely mixed opinions about. Yeah. I like how we both went for that word.
Sofia Coppola was another one that was on my mind. Catherine Bigelow was another one that was on my mind. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. One of the things that I want to do is I want us to kind of step back, and maybe we can get some audience feedback on this one. The thing that I did not enjoy this time around is because of the difficulty of our schedule and the number of episodes we have to do every month for other things in order to keep up with those things. Like our patron produced episodes, we need to do at least 2 a month, or we're never gonna be able to keep up with them. But because of that, we kind of got ourselves in a position where we were only doing this show once a month. And the problem I had with that is a month is a long time between movies when you're trying to kind of like look universally at a director and their work. And so in an ideal world, I would like to do these things much quicker, much sooner. So we're going to be taking some time. We're not going to dive into our next director right away. We're going to be taking some time to kind of figure out how we want to do this, and maybe how we want to change it in order to be able to look at these things in a smaller time frame. We have some big changes coming in the podcast because our friends at Media MD are ending that show. Actually, the same day this show comes out, their last episode will be coming out, and they have expressed interest in kind of coming here and being a part of this show more often. So we're kind of, everything is in flux right now as we kind of try to figure out what that's going to look like, how it's going to work, how the schedule is going to work, and how things are going to change. So we're not going to dive right into our next director right away as we're trying to figure that stuff out. But in my opinion, I think the series would be better served by doing them quicker, doing 2 a month, or maybe just like saying, all right, this is for the next 2 months, it's going to be Gore Verbinski all the time, and then we finish that, and then we take a break before we dive on to the next director. I don't know.
The thing you just said, I think that would be my preference, just because I think that when you really dive into something and it's all that thing all the time, then it fills up your brain. And I mean, I can't remember anything about Alien 3. That was almost a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's great. It would have been great if we'd watched all these movies rapidly, and I had all the little file cards of photographic memory or whatever in my brain, where I could just be like, oh yeah, and this shot in Gone Girl, that reminds me of this shot in Seven. That would, which I think would have happened if we had watched the films close together.
Definitely, I agree. So that's what we're thinking, folks. Again, I would love to get y'all's feedback on what you're thinking. We have our commitments to our patrons that we need to keep up, so I don't know how we would be able to do that while also doing this new format. But we're working behind the scenes. We'll try to figure that out, and we'll let you guys know as soon as we've come to a conclusion.
Yep.
All right. Well, that is it for us this week. Again, if you have any opinions on Gone Girl, on David Fincher as a whole, or on who we should do next or how we should do it, please reach out to us. We do want to hear from you. You can email us at doofmedia@gmail.com. You can send us a message on Twitter @doofmedia, or you can talk to us in Discord, which you can join by being a patron.
If you are not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And you can find all of our shows over at our website, doofmedia.com. There's tons of great content over there, and it's not just from me. So if you're tired of listening to me, if you're tired of listening to Matt, there's still a bunch of stuff there. You can, if you're reading any of the Wildbow web serials, we have Decomposing Worm, a great show by Matthias and Clarence that are kind of going through the web serial Worm. If you've read Worm already and you don't want to listen to people talk about it anymore, Ruben and Elliot are talking about the new Wildbow web serial Pale. If you don't read Wildbow, but you really like Harry Potter, you can listen to Stephen and Brian talking about Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. Some I don't get it. Something. I don't know. It's Harry Potter.
It's a whole thing. It's pretty good actually. I like it.
And did I miss anything? What else we got that's not me, that's not me or not you?
We should write these things down somewhere.
We should. The point is that there's a ton of stuff in this network. Any kind of stuff you like. If you like video games, we got a monthly game club. They're playing Outer Wilds right now, and they're going to talk about it on the 1st of August. It's a great game. I love it. I can't wait to talk about it with them. You should do that too. If you like books, we got a book club. It's meeting next Friday on the 31st. We're talking about the 15 Lives of Harry August. The first 15... The first 15 lives. I had to look at my bookshelf because it's over there. My bookshelf. The first 15 lives of Harry August. That meets Friday night, the 31st at 9:30.
And we've done like 2 years worth of episodes for that. If you like books and you're like, I wonder if they've talked about my favorite book, then just go look at our old book club episodes. Mm-hmm. And you'll probably find it.
Yeah, we have not talked about Gone Girl because Matt has not read that, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
I don't know if Gillian Flynn's written a new book lately. I really like her writing. I think I've read everything she's written, and she's pretty good, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I've liked the 2 movies based on her books that I've seen. So she's
writing a TV show right now.
Oh,
so
nice.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, folks. I totally forgot. You can also support us on Patreon. Matt, I always forget this thing because it's always weird to ask people for money. If you like what we do here and want to support us, we are a fully patron-funded media group. We don't make any money off of advertising, which you probably figured out because you haven't heard us like talk about Stitch Fix or anything. Stitch Fix. Yay. Anyway.
We're still doing Blue Apron. Is that a thing?
I don't know. I haven't actually heard people talk about Blue Apron as much lately. There's so many of those things now. It's hard to keep track of.
I know.
The point is, we are a fully patron-funded organization. Everything we do is funded by our patrons. That's how we keep the lights on. That's how we keep buying new equipment. That's how we keep paying the cost of the websites and all the movies we watch and everything. So if you like what we do and want to support that, want to help us grow, you can head on over to our Patreon account. That's patreon.com/doofmedia. You can pledge whatever amount. We got a bunch of different levels, and you get cool stuff for everything you pledge. There's bonus content. There's streams. You can, like we talked about earlier, you can make us watch a movie or a TV show or an anime. There's tons of stuff on there, and we really do appreciate everyone that does support us because it means the world to us that we get to keep doing this.
Yes, just head over there, check it out. I'm sure you'll find something that makes it worth your while.
Yeah, and we are only 12 patrons away from our next goal, which is an original audio narrative written by my buddy over here, Matt Freeman. He's written this incredible thing called Explorators, and we are going to be producing it here at Doof Media. It's something we've never done before, and we're getting really close to making it happen. So we're very excited about that. So if you want to be part of making that happen, 12 more people. That's all we need. You can be one of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited, a bit petrified, but excited.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I'm a little scared too. This is a big step for us. We're excited and nervous and all the good things. You know, I've long said that if something makes you both excited and nervous at the same time, it's usually a thing that's worth doing.
I like that. Anyway, please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts because every review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
Yep. And when we come back next week, Matt, you know what we're going to be talking about?
What?
You should be excited because next week is another patron-produced episode, and one of our patrons has asked us to return to the world of Riddick. We're going to be talking about the movie Chronicles of Riddick next week, and I believe...
Oh my God.
I believe we got to follow up with him, but I believe your brother asked to join us on that one, so I think we're going to be joined by the one and only Daniel Freeman to talk about Chronicles of Riddick next week.
This is awesome.
Yeah, so we'll see you all next week for some Chronicles of Riddick.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.